Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in this position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 men.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Good Friday morning, Bryan College Station. Welcome to another B-Team version of TexAgs Live. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, we are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair today, heading you toward what should be a very interesting weekend if you follow Texas A&M recruiting. You can never turn your back on it right now. Certainly we can't, for those of us that cover it. To my left is Olin Buchanan, fighting through the pain this morning. You okay?
Yeah, the ibuprofen's going to kick in a minute.
We better hope it does, or Matthew Dawson's going to be right over here. Matthew Dawson's to my right in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We have a very fun exercise for like one of the very few times in your life. Everybody, if you're driving around your car, don't stop and write this down, but make it maybe a voice note on your phone. If you are in your office, you can, if you're in your office, you can maybe get your notepad out and write down June. You have your mic on? Me? I don't have my mic on?
Go ahead and start talking.
Okay. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, we got a messed up mic back.
Pit stop.
Pit stop. Yep. Okay. We're off to a flying start on this Feel Good Friday. I think you're on, Olin.
I'm always on.
Anyway, on June 20th, 2025, year of our Lord 2025, Olin Buchanan had a good idea. And I want Irma to know that you had a good idea. I don't know that you have many at home, or maybe one she won't admit to. But we have a good idea. We're going to play like a little bit of a game here. And not a game. It's just a fun exercise that I think we can probably take through the entire go hour here this morning. If you want to call or interact with the show, 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. You think?
Yeah.
You think this will be a hot button topic?
I think people have opinions and they like to share them.
I think people are going to love reminding us that we've forgotten
Oh, for sure.
a lot of things.
All right, so let me premise this, or let me kind of set the table here for what we are going to be doing this morning in the go hour. Olin, I came in through the door, and he's vigorously writing on his white notepad. And when Olin is doing that, he's either got something, some big story he's preparing. I just don't feel like I see him do it often enough where it would just be second nature for him to be doing that, and I just brush it off. So I said, what is this about?
And I was telling him on the way to work today, somewhere on Wellborn Road, I just started thinking about, I wonder what's the all-time A&M football team, just all SEC years. And so when I came in, I was writing down what I thought it would be. And then you came in and asked me what I was doing. And I told you. And then the next thing you know, you said, well, hey, let's do it on the show. So once again, we entered the show with absolutely minimal preparation.
No, you were prepping. You've been prepping for over an hour probably?
No, less than an hour.
About an hour. So Olin and Dawson, and it's fine. I'm not complaining that they did this. Olin and Dawson started going through kind of year-by-year stats to compile a two-deep on offense.
15 minutes ago, all right, for me, 15 minutes ago.
It was more like I needed to remind myself of some names.
Right. So offense and defense, two guys at each position. We are going to go through that. I do have some top of the day news that we got to get to first, but we are going to share our teams. Two deep. Offense, defense, we did one punter, one kicker, and then two 12th men as well. We will go through that for most of this go hour And I do think I didn't look at rosters. I tried to do it all off the top of my head. So I've guaranteed that I will have missed some names. And I'm interested to see who I missed because for sure, Olin, you and Dawson are going to have guys on like, oh, yeah, I'm an idiot. I should have had that guy on there.
We're probably going to forget some obvious ones, and that's why people might be inspired to call up and to tell us what we missed.
Well, and I think that for sure, I would hope that sparks this type of the discussion sparks that type of reaction from the fan base here on a Friday morning as we welcome in Cade Bickham, who's pulling the strings this morning. Cade, good morning.
Colorado Cade.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, so Aggie baseball, late last night, I mean, it happened right after lunchtime, but late last night, Aggie baseball picks up a commitment out of the transfer portal from Chris Hakopian, a shortstop at Maryland, who extremely offensive, but I don't know if he could get a hit off of all-region Cade Bickham.
People say the same thing about me.
What?
Extremely offensive, but probably couldn't get a hit off of Cade Bickham.
Cade, what do you think of the pickup?
I think it's a great pickup. It's actually it is I'm all American now too. Yeah, two time.
I didn't mean to shortchange you.
No,
you're
right. It's fine. But I love the pickup. You know, it's funny. I actually I didn't realize he has a brother on Maryland as well. And so his brother's numbers aren't bad either. But I mean, this he seems like the real deal. 375, 14. It was like 15 homers.
1,100 plus OPS.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's everything you want from your shortstop if that's what he's going to play.
Didn't I read somewhere that he was, at least in somebody's mind, the number one prospect on the portal?
Yeah, he was the number one shortstop transfer available. The kid at Virginia is right up there with him. One of the top players available in the portal. In a year right now, Olin, that I would say the overall talent pool in the transfer portal for baseball has been down comparatively to previous years. Could that have to do with the house settlement and guys not wanting to move and being guaranteed X amount where they're at? I don't know. But Hakopian was undoubtedly one of the most highly sought after players in the portal. And it's mostly because of the bat. Now, look, he's plays shortstop at Maryland. He is extremely physical and athletic. But the fielding percentage is a little bit sub what you'd want, but the bat more than makes up for it. Now, interestingly enough, he announces his commitment to A&M last night, and on the show today at 9:15, around 9:20, more so 9:20, it'll be Texas A&M assistant coach Cliff Pennington in the second segment of that 9 o'clock hour. So he is a former Aggie shortstop who played a long time in the major leagues and has been a successful coach at Dallas Baptist since his retirement. He's coming to Michael Early's staff. It'll be our first time to talk with him, so we'll get insights as to the move he made from Dallas to College Station to come home, and then what is his plan to make a guy who's been, again, one of the most physical bats in the country last year at the shortstop position. How does he get the glove to kind of make up some of that ground and get it closer?
Well, if you're watching the movie Major Leagues, you just take a whole lot of practice, right? Because Roger Dorn.
Oh yeah, Dorn was.
He was all bat, no field.
Well, I hope he.
And then he had the bruises all over because he was taking all the infield practice.
I'm not about to die for that ball.
Yeah, I'm gonna mess up this commodity.
Yeah, last time I did that, I almost lost my sight. There's some great lines in that movie.
Yeah, there is.
And then they put him into pinch hit, and he gets hit by the pitch, and he doesn't want to come out of the game for a pinch runner.
I don't remember that part.
Oh, yeah. So they put him in, and it was like in a pinch hit roll late in the game, and he gets hit by the pitch, and that's why they put him in. Like, hey, this guy's thrown Dorn inside for X amount of years. So they put him in the game. He gets hit by a pitch and runs the first. And so they put it in a pinch runner, and Dorn's looking at the dugout telling him no.
Oh, I guess I missed that one.
You missed that one? Oh, it's
great. Or maybe I just don't remember it.
Bob Euchre says, Dorn puts on an impressive display of stretching because he's stretching on first base, trying not to come out of the game. It's a great movie. One of my all-time favorites.
Well done as a sports movie. You know the people that wrote it actually followed sports.
Yeah, and also Kevin Costner baseball movies were great. And then because Kevin Costner played baseball some growing up, and then Charlie Sheen played baseball as well. And so he was obviously a star of those major league movies as Rick Vaughn.
Yeah.
And maybe A&M goes and finds their Rick Vaughn.
Somebody with a crazy haircut.
Well, and I hope they throw strikes and they throw 100 miles an hour. Because, look, that's the big question now. So you get Hakopian in, and this is a good way to kind of turn the commentary back onto what happened. So you get Hakopian in the boat, and that was a dogfight, man. Like, there were some schools trying to muddy that water late, and it was going A&M's direction. Cliff Pennington, the aforementioned Cliff Pennington, played a key role in this kid coming to Texas A&M. And it was like his first day on the job. He drives down to College Station, and Chris Hakopian's on a visit. And I was told that the infield presentation that Coach Pennington was able to put together on very short notice was extremely impressive and noteworthy for Chris and his dad. And that stuck with Chris through a bunch of visits, or I say a bunch, a few visits afterward to rival programs in the SEC. And A&M was able to hold on because, most of the time, Olin, whether you're talking football or baseball or basketball portal, you get a kid in, you want him to commit before leaving campus. Just what we've seen, the precedent so far with portal recruiting is like, get them in, get them to commit, because if they go on a bunch of visits, the likelihood of them coming back to you seemingly keeps falling.
Yeah. Where do you guess that he bats in the order?
Oh gosh, it's hard to know without everything being finalized, and they do have to.
He's not going to bat ninth.
No, of course not.
He's not going to bat eighth.
I would say first to fourth, somewhere
first,
in the.
Even.
I mean, why wouldn't you? If he gets on base like he does, and he hits a bunch of homers, and you have guys behind him that get on base and they can really hit,
okay, I'm not arguing you. I'm just
the reasoning you put your best hitter first is what is it going to do? Maximize his opportunities to go to the batter's box.
So what if you have other guys that can bat first as well?
Sure, and I think they will. Like Caden Sorrell. If Caden Sorrell's your leadoff hitter, are you going to complain?
What about that Kill guy?
If Terrence Kill's your leadoff hitter, are you going to complain?
No.
Hey, you know who else is coming back who's hit leadoff a bunch in his career?
Who's that?
Gavin Grahovic.
Gavin Grahovic.
So, you're going to have some options. By the way, a player that nobody is talking about that was a sneaky good get for Coach Early, Matthew Dawson. I want you to go look at Jake Dewar's numbers. And maybe, do we have a Jake Dewar graphic? You can shake your head yes or no, Cade. If we have a Jake Dewar graphic to pull up with his numbers, like he was limited. He had a foot injury in the back probably third of the season at Florida Atlantic. But you have him? Dawson's got him.
He batted .428, on-base percentage of .497, a slugging of .551, so that gives you an OPS of 1,048.
Like some guys are just talkers. He sounds like a doer.
Doers get more done.
So I think he's, what if he's in your top 2 or 3 in the order? Would that surprise you? No. And like one thing that it's tough, and especially with a portal group nationally that is maybe down in talent, you worry about scalability, right? Like these guys that are coming from mid-majors, that's where you have to really sink your teeth into the data and the analytics, and what do your eyes tell you as well. Is like Jake Dewar, great numbers. How does that scale against SEC competition? And when you look at, for instance, Aiden Robbins, who is another highly sought-after bat out of Seton Hall that went to Texas, has very similar numbers to Jake Dewar, but Jake Dewar did all that against like the 96th strength of schedule, where Aiden Robbins' numbers at Seton Hall were like the 168th strength of schedule. So does that play a factor in how you view these portal gets? Aiden Robbins was widely regarded across college baseball media as a big pickup for Texas, and he is. He's a good player. But that's why I think the Jake Dewar get for A&M kind of flew under the radar, because his numbers are very comparable, and he did it against better competition.
All right. Well, it sounds like Early is doing some Bucky McMillan type restocking of the roster.
Well, they're not done. They've got to find a catcher. And I think that's going to be tough. They're bringing in a kid out of the high school class, which we think he's going to come to school, named Luke Billings from Prosper. Now, Luke Billings is got a lot of big tools. He's a great-looking prospect. But it's just tough to have a true freshman as your backup catcher. You did that face again.
What did I do?
Every time, Dawson. I said a good-looking prospect, and then I can see the wheels turning.
No.
And he starts smiling, like sheepishly kind of grinning at the camera.
Hey, I'm loving the idea that A&M is getting all these players on the baseball team, and maybe next year turns out to be much greater than last year. Who wouldn't smile at those prospects?
It has to be. It has to be.
It has to be.
Right. So, but what I was saying is, to go out and get a transfer catcher to just take some of the wear and tear off Bear Harrison. Because what did we see with Bear at the end of the year? He's catching every game, and so his production, especially his slug numbers, start to fall back. Now, he got off his feet for a couple of weeks, and he's playing in Cape Cod, hit 2 homers this week. So, like, as he's starting to feel better, the ball's starting to fly again. But I would love to see them be able to go get a kid at catcher that can just spell him enough to where when May and June come along, we're not seeing these dips. And it happened to Jackson Appel, if you can remember. Jackson Appel's last month of the season, how many warning track fly balls did he hit?
Yeah.
A bunch. It's just the wear and tear of playing the position every day. It's like running back. You need another one.
Yeah.
And A&M, luckily on the football side, they've got plenty of those. But why is that going to be difficult, Olin?
Because why go into the portal to be a backup?
Right. Like finding the fit to be the backup catcher out of the portal, I think that's going to be their biggest hurdle. That's going to be their biggest job. They've also got to go get some more arms. They have to. And if they can get this Blanco kid from Virginia over the line, I think they're in the lead. If they can get that one done, he may go right into the weekend rotation. He's got that kind of upside. And then we don't know what's going to happen with Shane Sadeo. I think that would be as big of a return to the roster as any portal incoming player that they could possibly land. So, all right, so we're up against the break. That was all of our baseball content for this hour. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to football. We're going to start on this all-time Texas A&M SEC team. We're going to go offense first in the next segment, defense following that, as we get into the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour on a Friday morning on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
The bumper music today will have a theme. We'll see if you can pick up on it as we go through the show. If you're listening to us on the Zone 1150, if you got us on YouTube, we can't let you listen because that's copyright. And we don't have any copyright attorneys in the building. And certainly not Olin Buchanan and certainly not Matthew Dawson. Although Olin, not to be crass or rude to you, I think his brain does more than yours does, maybe in different areas, but neither one of you are litigation attorneys.
I could be maybe a copy wrong attorney, maybe. No.
All right, let's get into this because, like I said, Olin Buchanan woke up today and had a great idea. June 20th, 2025, Olin Buchanan had a good idea. All right, so the best lineup we could come up with, the best two deep we could come up with in the SEC era for Texas A&M football. We're doing the offense right now. We did 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 5 offensive linemen by position, obviously quarterback, and then running back. So we'll start with wide receiver, your first team of wide receivers, all 3.
Yeah, Ryan Swope, Christian Kirk, and Mike Evans.
Same.
Same.
That was pretty easy.
Here's where it gets interesting, I think. Your second team of wide receivers.
Yeah, my second team wide receiver, Josh Reynolds.
Got him.
Anaya Smith.
Got him.
Jamon Osmond.
Yes. Boom. I think that's
okay.
A good one.
Jamon was in my brain. I went Courtney Davis.
Okay.
I thought about that too.
And you know who else was in the discussion? Because we talked about very little of this. I do want to say that. Like, we don't know each other's teams. No. We purposefully did not talk about it before the show started. But one name that came up that we kind of mentioned was Damian Ratley.
Yeah, I didn't think he was very good here.
He had a good NFL career.
He just missed my cut. He was my number 7.
I'm going to tell you something because I'm going to go based on not what they did in the NFL or if they got into the NFL. Based, if you just had one season, Travis Labhart.
Yeah, where did like Ricky Seals-Jones? He was close for me.
Didn't really come up.
Had that coach had a tight end where he should have played all along, then he would have been a great choice for tight end. But I think he's just one of those guys that had a good career. But
so 5 of the 6, we have the exact same. Mike Evans, Josh Reynolds, Ryan Swope, Anaya Smith, Christian Kirk. These 2 guys, Olin and Dawson, have Jamon Osmond as their 6th receiver. I went Courtney Davis. I don't think that we're kind of splitting hairs there on that 6th spot. But overall, I think those top 5 lay down, no doubt. Those are the best 5 since A&M's been in the SEC.
Yeah, Caleb Chapman might have been if he could ever stayed healthy.
Yeah, he would have had a very interesting, especially his yards per catch would have been very interesting had he been able to stay healthy. All right, tight end. I think this is pretty easy.
Sternberger, Weidemeyer.
Yep.
Jay Sternberger, Jalen Weidemeyer. I don't know that there's a huge argument to be made elsewhere.
I can't think of anybody.
I couldn't think of anybody either.
No, I couldn't think of anything either. But I do think offensive line gets really interesting.
Okay, let's do this. Let's go left tackle, Olin.
Oh, now we got to.
I went by position.
Oh, okay. Well, I just put tackle, but okay. Luke Jokel.
Luke Jokel.
Yep, Luke Jokel.
Backup left tackle.
Dan Moore.
Ogbuehi.
I went Trey Zoon.
Okay.
So there's some difference there. Cedric Ogbuehi could have fit anywhere. Yeah, and that's a good swing one.
And I talked about this before, and I was like, oh, can I slide a tackle to guard, you know? And
he actually played guard.
Like,
he did play guard. I didn't know who you were talking
for
to.
a season. In 2012, he played guard.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
He is – oh, well, we'll get to that.
Man, I could have put him in at guard then. Gosh, I was also 10 years old in 2012, so.
All right, who's one of your guards?
One of my guards, I'll go for the lowest hanging fruit.
Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green.
Yep.
Kenyon Green's on your list. All right, let's just finish out the first team. So we got Luke Jokel, Kenyon Green, unanimous. Center.
Eric McCoy.
Eric McCoy. Where's Eric McCoy from?
Lufkin, Texas.
East Texas.
East Texas, baby.
Are we all agreement there? Eric McCoy as the center, all-time Texas A&M offensive team in the SEC era. Right guard.
I went with Jermaine Ifedi.
Ooh, I went with Illuminor.
Jermaine Illuminor.
He's my backup.
That's where I went to.
Cool.
And I didn't look. I missed on Ifedi. Jermaine Ifedi should be on my 2 deep. He's not. I missed on him. Right tackle.
Jake Matthews.
I got Jake Matthews as well.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. I think we're in agreement. We have 4 of the same starting offensive linemen. The only disagreement there was at guard. Dawson and I go Jermaine Illuminor. OB went Jermaine Ifedi. All right, here's where I think we have some interesting picks here. I've already said my backup left tackle was Trey Zune. Who was yours?
Dan Moore.
Who was yours?
I said Ogbuehi.
Ogbuehi, okay. Backup at left guard. That's where I have said Ogbuehi.
Okay. I went ahead and went with, at left guard, I had Illuminor.
Okay.
I had Jarvis Harrison.
Ooh.
Jarvis.
Sneaky
really
good pick. Where's Jarvis from?
I don't know.
Navasota.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Star recruit.
He played so many games.
He did. And was
So many
super
games.
athletic. Remember how big he was? He could dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
That's a good pull, Matthew Dawson. Big brain.
I mean,
Big brain.
I'm trying my best over here.
Backup center is where I think we're going to have the most agreement.
Yeah.
Pat Lewis.
I went ahead and went Patrick Lewis.
That was a huge miss for me. I couldn't think of one.
Ron McCullum was really good.
Ryan McCullum was good.
That's what I put.
Did
Number
you?
2.
Yeah. Ryan McCullum's not a bad shout, but it's Pat Lewis.
That's a huge miss.
You talk to any of those guys that played on that 2012 offensive line in front of Johnny, and they will all tell you that Pat Lewis was their MVP.
Yeah, so
went with Pat Lewis. All right, at the backup at the other guard position, I went current guy.
I went Ahmad Reed Adams.
Boom.
I did not. I went Chase Basantis.
Ooh.
Are we going right or left guard?
I went right guard.
Well, right guard is Ahmad Reed Adams.
Well, I must have had
I think
that
he could play. He could play both. I mean,
Well, he could, but did he? The point I'm saying is,
Basantis played right
Chase,
guard as a freshman, right?
He played right tackle.
All year?
I think so.
I thought he played some games at right guard.
Okay, look, I don't have a problem with Chase Basantis. I'm not having a problem just saying guard. But I'll say this, and it's not just on Ahmad Reed Adams, but the offensive line got a lot better last year after he came.
Sure, absolutely. They also got a lot better with Adam Cushing.
Yeah. That's why I said it's not just him. But
yeah, I would have no argument with Armajay Reed Adams or Chase Basantis.
I think they're both studs. I mean,
they're both going to play in the NFL.
They're both road graders. They're both athletic. They can.
And
move.
it speaks to, like I said it a lot yesterday on the show. If this team can't run the football with this offensive line and this set of backs and this quarterback, we got big problems.
Right.
All right, back up at right tackle.
I put Ogbuehi.
I put Dan Moore.
See, I put a Fetty here at tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think Moore ever played right tackle.
Who was
Carson Green.
Carson Green. That's right. All right, quarterback. Pretty easy here.
I went with that Manziel guy.
Johnny.
Back up.
You have to put Kellen Mond.
It has to be Kellen.
I think so too.
Given what we've seen out of the quarterback position and the revolving door, the turnstile since Kellen left, it gives you. I think Kellen's career was good in the moment, and it's gotten better in hindsight.
Look, if Trevor Knight doesn't get hurt,
right.
we're having a
Trevor
different
Knight,
discussion.
If he played 2 years here, maybe. But
Yeah, I think it's lay down. And here's where we got to go to a break, so we'll be quick here. Running back, you know where I'm going.
Oh, it's Devon A-Chain.
Yep, that's one.
And then I have Travion Williams second.
Travion Williams.
100%. So we're pretty similar.
Isaiah Spiller.
Isaiah Spiller was very good.
Yep.
But Travion led the SEC in rushing, and we're putting him second because
they've had some good backs, some like sneaky good backs.
They've had some really, like
Trey Williams, Trey Carson, Ben Molina, like good functional running backs for their systems.
Le'Veon Moss.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, Isaiah Spiller probably would have been my number 3, but like, man, if Moss doesn't get hurt last year, like, how could you not leave him?
Yep. All right, well, that's good. This is good spirited discussion. Remember, get
Where
involved.
Where we go wrong? Who do we leave out?
Yeah, 979-693-1150. Get Dawson to work over there. Who do we leave out on the offensive side? When we come back, we'll go to the defense, where you're listening to TexAgs Live on a Friday morning, B-Team version, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
All right, guys, let's talk about some new partners, Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. They're Aggie owned and operated. They are an mobile IV hydration company that was founded back in 2024. I met with Sheldon and Danny over the last week, and they're awesome people. They really know what they're doing. They're proud to serve Bryan College Station with awesome services like IV hydration, Botox, and even some weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs. And on a busy weekend, I know some of you guys might be partying a little bit too much. If that's the case, an IV can be one of the easiest ways to ensure you're receiving all those necessary vitamins and minerals to make you feel better. Their overall mission is to bring a more personalized and accessible wellness option to the broader range of clientele here in the Bryan College Station and Brazos Valley area. To book an appointment or inquire about it, just call them up or text them. 979-217-1561. Again, it's Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Check them out. It's our friends at Aggieland Hydration and Injectables.
Look, we give the audience some grief sometimes, but we do got some ball knowers listening to the show. Ryan Brauninger, Olin Buchanan, it's the Go Hour on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We got to throw Matthew Dawson in because he's been a great contributor already this morning. But we got some ball knowers.
We knew we'd forget somebody.
We missed somebody.
We got some ball knowers here. Mason Ratliff pointed it out first, so I'll give him credit. But Malcolm Kennedy.
Malcolm Kennedy should be that 6 wide receiver.
That's your 6 wide receiver.
No question.
At his peak, Osmond might have been better. But I think people neglect to give him the credit that he maybe deserves because he sat out that COVID year. But if he hadn't sat out that COVID year, then we're probably putting
the career
Osmond
numbers would have put
Osmond clearly at 6. But I think
with Malcolm Kennedy, people just remember that catch against Bama, but it was a lot more than that. Like, you think about that
especially
Auburn,
the next 2 years.
Yeah, that Auburn upset, Arkansas, right. The Auburn upset on the Plains. He had a long catch and run on a slant, I believe.
And you know what? He's from East Texas. He's from Cayuga. Cayuga.
All right, here we go. We got to get into the defense because we're going to be up against the clock. This is where we're going to have some discrepancies, especially in the secondary, especially at corner. Again, I did not look through the rosters. I'm going to miss on some of these guys.
Which I give you credit because, I would not have thought of these names. And I had a short time to get this all together. It was like 15 minutes before the show, but I would not have thought of some of these names if I didn't have access to them.
All right, we'll go starting defensive line. Olin, go all 4. So you have 2 defensive ends and 2 defensive tackles.
My ends, I'm gonna go way out on a limb and go Myles Garrett and Demontre Moore as my ends, and my tackles are going to be Justin Matabike and this McKinley Jackson.
Okay, mine are a little bit different.
Okay,
my starting defensive end are Myles Garrett and DeMarvin Leal. And my 2 starting defensive tackles are Justin Matabike and Kingsley Kiki.
Okay. Wow, we're all different here. I have all those names on my list, just not.
Who are your starters?
Starters, I got Myles Garrett, Demontre Moore, so I'm with OB. But then my DTs, I got Matabike and Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. I didn't even make my. So, there's some.
He's on my second team.
Okay, cool. Go your second team defensive ends and defensive tackles.
Here's the one that's people are going to think it's crazy. But then I'm going to throw stats at you. But defensive end, my defensive end, Landis Durham.
That's who I thought was going to get left off.
And Michael Clemens.
Michael Clemens is on mine.
My tackles are Kingsley Kiki and Bobby Brown.
Okay, good. My backup defensive ends, Michael Clemens and Deshaun Hall. And then my 2 defensive tackles, Dalen Mack and McKinley Jackson.
Okay, good stuff. Dalen Mack just missed mine. I put Kingsley Kiki here at DT with McKinley Jackson. That was my pair that I put. I know similar.
And your ends?
Ends, I had Michael Clemens and DeMarvin Leal.
So you didn't have DeMarvin Leal on yours at all? You got to make a decision somewhere. You got to make cuts somewhere. I didn't have Bobby Brown on mine.
His junior year was crazy.
Landis Durham
led the SEC in sacks.
Led the SEC, and then had 6.5 the other year. So in 2 years, he had 17 sacks.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with it. In fact, I thought he was going to miss all of our list completely just because he wasn't as high-profile a name as some of these other ones.
And so it came down to me between Clemens and Leal, and I'm thinking, well, who was a bigger pass rusher? And I thought Clemens was.
Leal kind of muddies that line between end and tackle.
That's true.
He was, DeMarvin was a sensational player here.
Yeah, look, if you say, hey, you need to take one of those, if I'm mandated to take one of those guys off and put in DeMarvin Leal, first of all, I could do it anyway, but I think it'd have to be end, and then I'd probably take off Clemens.
Okay. We are going to linebacker next. 2 linebackers. Give me your starters. Dawson, we're going to start with you.
I had a tough one, and you guys are going to have to help me with my second team linebackers here. But first team, I got Tyrell Dodson at Mike and Cooper at
Adrian Cooper, yeah.
Adrian Cooper's on mine.
Easy.
Who's your other one?
Those are mine.
Sean Porter. I got Sean Porter.
I had Sean Porter for a while, and I had to X him out.
Okay, so who are your backups?
Buddy Johnson and Otaro Alaka.
I forgot about OT.
I'm going to throw, he's good. I had Buddy Johnson as well in my second team. And then
there's a lot of Torian York. You can make an argument if you wanted Torian in here.
Depends what you want, but I already have Buddy Johnson playing Mike.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would throw another Mike in there, but
I got Buddy Johnson and Tyrell Dodson.
Okay.
As my backup.
Did you ever tell us who your backups are?
It was Buddy Johnson's backup, and I guess I'll go Sean Porter.
Okay.
That's not a bad fallback. I mean,
Well,
Sean
yeah, no,
Porter
it's
was
not a
awesome.
bad. Yeah. We'll roll with that.
All right. Corner, I think we're going to have some big time discussions about because, to be quite frank, Olin, it's just not super deep. And so I've got a current guy on my 2 deep.
So do I.
But I don't know that we're all going to have a current guy on our 2 deep. So, Olin, your starting corners.
Will Lee and DeShazer Everett.
That's your starters at corner.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my starters as well.
Not my starters.
Okay.
My starters are Jalen Jones and DeShazer Everett.
Okay.
I love Jalen Jones. He's obviously turned into a good pro.
He was great.
I'm biased to kids that I covered in recruiting, and Jalen I covered from very early on at Cibolo Steel. So I went Jalen Jones and DeShazer Everett. Backups, OB?
I went with Jalen Jones and Devontae Harris.
Interesting.
Had a really good second year,
Yeah.
but kind of shaky first year.
Yeah, I went Jalen Jones on my second team, and then I really couldn't think of like a corner that I liked that much, but I just went with Chappelle that freshman year when he was across from Jalen Jones. I mean, they were one of the best secondaries in the
By
country.
the way, I left out Brandon Williams, who was picked in the 3rd round by the Cardinals, but he had one season playing
Brandon Williams was on my second team.
Okay.
It was he and Will Lee were my second team corners. But interesting. It's just not as deep of an area. We got to go quick. Nickel.
Okay, nickel. I took some license since this was my idea, and it's nickel / safety. In this case, I'm going Tariq Chappelle.
I went Tariq Chappelle.
And my backup will be who's more of a safety, but who was a safety? Let's face it, Justin Evans, because I can still see him knocking the dog snot out of Derrick Henry.
Yep. I went starter Tariq Chappelle, backup Tony Hurd Jr.
Okay.
So y'all aren't putting Antonio Johnson at nickel?
I guess I should have.
Is he not a nickel? Like,
I
in your
would have.
mind?
Okay.
Okay, then Antonio Johnson, and then I'll
put his my starter.
Save Evans for safety.
Yeah. I'm going to put that.
Okay, sure.
Antonio Johnson should be the starter.
I think that Tariq Chappelle is better in coverage than Antonio Johnson.
Antonio Johnson was so good. All right, safeties, starters.
For me, I'm going to say
Donovan Wilson and Armani Watts.
Donovan Wilson or Armani Watts. That's exactly what I got written down.
I'm throwing Evans in at nickel with you, OB, or what you originally did, and then I'm with you guys, Donovan Wilson or Armani Watts.
And the backups, I have Justin Evans and Damani Richardson.
I put Damani Richardson and I wrote down Johnson.
Antonio
Antonio
you
Johnson.
had Antonio Johnson, but yeah,
So then that's Evans.
Yeah.
You have backups?
My backups, Richardson, and then I couldn't think of another one. I went with Leon O'Neal. You guys talked about it before.
He's been close.
That he
O'Neal.
was close to making your list, but fortunately my Aggie knowledge probably doesn't go as deep as you guys.
Quickly, kicker, punter, 12 men.
Man, small. Man at punter, small at kicker, kick returner. You can pick between Kirk or Smith. I'll get Smith. And 12th man is Cullen Gillespie.
I went kicker Josh Lambo, punter Braden Mann, 12th man Cullen Gillespie, and then kick returner Christian Kirk.
Okay. Yeah, I had the same thing as Bronny.
Who was the small town kicker you were thinking of?
No, I was saying small.
Oh, you said small town.
He's a small town.
All right, we come back. We will close the go hour. This has been a fun exercise. Interact with the show, 979-693-1150. Tell us where we're wrong and who we missed. When we come back, the final segment of the Go Hour on a Friday morning, you're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, final segment of the Go Hour Friday morning edition of TexAgs Live. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, we are presented by David Garner's Jewelers. We go around Aggieland over there with Miss Callie Garner. There's been a lot of player acquisition happening across a lot of sports here.
There's been so much. We'll start with baseball. The Aggies added a pair of new faces to next year's roster this week in left-handed pitcher Ethan Darden from Clemson and shortstop Chris Hakopian from Maryland. Darden is a veteran pitcher who throws strikes. He had 121 over 162 innings pitched for the Tigers with a 2.24 strikeout to walk ratio. Hakopian is a massive pickup for Early & Co., hitting .375 with 14 home runs in 2025 for Maryland and also driving in 61 runs. On the football front, Mike Elko picked up 3 big commits this week in defensive lineman Samuel Roseborough from Clearwater, running back KJ Edwards out of Carthage, and a big one coming in yesterday afternoon, 5-star athlete Brandon Arrington out of Spring Valley. The Aggies are on fire on the recruiting trail in the month of June and definitely look to keep it going in July. With men's basketball, they released their SEC opponents for the first year with Bucky McMillan at the helm. 7 of Texas A&M's 9 SEC home opponents in 2026 made the NCAA tournament last year, including defending national champion Florida, plus Kentucky, Texas, and Oklahoma. The Aggies will play 18 SEC games, 9 at home and 9 on the road, with home and away matchups with LSU, Texas, and OU. SEC play tips off January 3rd and runs through March 7th. The league is coming off a record-setting year with 14 NCAA bids and 4 Elite 8 teams. On a similar front, the Lady Aggies now know their conference opponents as well for the 2026 season. The Lady Aggies will play 16 league games in 2026, 8 at home and 8 on the road, with a home-and-home matchup against Oklahoma. A&M's slate includes 6 2025 NCAA tournament teams headlined by national runner-up South Carolina. Road trips include Texas, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, 2 of which the Aggies knocked off last year. Under Joni Taylor, now in year 4, the Aggies returned 3 key players, including shot-blocking leader Lauren Ware, and adds 7 transfers highlighted by the nation's top rebounder and top steals leader from last season. And the SEC tournament will tip off on March 4th in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, a lot to get to, and we will have Billy Liucci in the 10 o'clock hour. We'll talk a lot more about the recruiting run that Mike Elko and company are on. Jamie Morrison on a little bit of a heater as well.
Yeah.
Not only the number 1 player in the class of 2027, but picked up another top five player yesterday. This has been a fun little run that all these sports have been on. Trisha Ford doing a great job in softball. So we are, even though there's no sports to actually cover, and we're in this the dog days of summer, they have been a lot of player acquisition happening. Olin, thank you. Dawson, you're sticking around. A lot more show to get to. When we come back, Fort Bend Marshall head coach James Williams joins the show. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, 9 o'clock hour on a Friday morning. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair today. David Nuno will be rejoining you guys next week. But without further ado, we are going out to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Talk to a guy that I've got a great amount of respect and admiration for, a guy that I've worked closely with in the greater Houston area, and the leader of one of the best high school football programs, not only in Houston, but the entire state of Texas. The head coach of the Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes, James Williams, joins the show today. Coach, I always appreciate your time. Good morning. I understand you're traveling a little bit. So, again, I'm greatly appreciative of you making time for us.
Well, no problem. Thank you so much. First, I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your show. You do such an amazing job for these kids out here. And it's always a pleasure to work with you and talk with you and have the opportunity to share with you when the opportunity is there. So thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I don't ever need a real reason to have James Williams on TexAgs Live, but I do have a real reason as we're another Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes headed to College Station, and we haven't gotten a chance to talk to you since KK Johnson made his decision to come to Texas A&M. So, Coach, let's start with this. What kind of human being are the Aggies getting in KK?
First of all, he's an amazing young man. When you talk about character, when you talk about hard work, when you talk about a disciplined athlete, which is what we talk about at Fort Bend every day, that's a young man you're going to get. He's going to be a high character young man. He's a very hard worker, very respectful. But when it comes time, he's going to roll up his sleeves. He's going to work his tail off and get the job done.
And obviously, he's played a ton of quarterback for you guys, but those athletic traits come off on tape, whether he's throwing the ball or making plays in the run game. I saw him last year against Iowa Colony and kind of deceptive speed in the open field. Just talk about the overall athletic profile of KK. You've seen some elite athletes come through your program, but I can't remember one that was 6'6" and 235 pounds.
Exactly. That's the first thing that's going to jump out at you. He's legit 6'6", probably 6'6.5" right now. He's still growing. But that frame, you can't coach. He has that frame, and like you said, he has speed to go with it. He's been running track for majority of his life, playing basketball for majority of his life. So he's a well-rounded athlete who can do a lot of great things with the ball. And so, yes, for us, the first 3 years he's been here, he's been playing quarterback and doing a great job for us, and leading our offense. And now he's going to have an opportunity to play some tight end and maybe a few different positions at the next level. And he's very excited about that. But being 6'6" and able to move like he can, it opens up a lot of doors.
And when he came to you, or you found out that A&M was recruiting him as kind of this athlete, did it surprise you, and did it kind of click in your brain like, oh, that makes a lot of sense?
No, not a surprise, but it definitely makes sense. You can say he's prototype, NFL body, a college, tight end body. He's gonna have to put on some weight, put on some, and they'll do a great job when he gets to College Station, putting on the right kind of weight and the right kind of muscle, and getting his frame able to make those blocks on the run game, but also get him in space and open field to run routes and catch the ball and make good things happen. But no, it's definitely not a surprise because of the athlete that he is. If he wanted to go and play quarterback in college, he had that opportunity. He had multiple offers at quarterback to play on the next level as well. But he loves Texas A&M. He loved College Station, their staff, and so he chose to play tight end at the next level.
And your program, man, the hit rate, that's one thing I talk about. I talk to college coaches, and I talk to just people in the recruiting industry in the state of Texas. And you look at programs that when they produce players that get opportunities at the next level, they hit. And Fort Bend Marshall, your guys have hit at the next level, man, no matter where they're going. What do you think it is about the culture maybe you've created, or the offseason program, or your coaching staff that has been able to help these kids translate so well from high school to college?
Well, first, I give credit to the kids. The kids, they do the work. They understand the assignment going in. I've been fortunate with my staff over the years. I have so many coaches who've played college football and have experience and know what it's going to take to be successful in that level and then beyond. And so, a lot of things we do at Marshall is, college level and work. The way we structure our off season, the way we do our summer program, the way we practice every day, the meetings we have, a lot of things we do are tailored for the college level because most of us and our staff have been on that level, and we know that's going to help them be successful. So we try to prepare them before they get there like it's mentally, physically, athletically. We want to make sure they know the expectation and how it's going to be when they get there. So it's not an adjustment. So it's not a shock like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe we're doing so much work up here. Well, you've been doing it for 4 years, at Marshall. So hopefully that helps the transition when they get to that level. But like I said, I give the credit to the kid because they have to do the work and they have to prepare themselves and get out there and execute.
And then to kind of turn the conversation back toward KK, as a leader, how have you seen him grow with his voice and his presence in the weight room, in the locker room, just around his guys?
Oh yeah, you definitely see it. Coming in, he starts off on a freshman level, and he's as a quarterback, you have to be that leader. And as a quarterback, you have to be that example. And I always say this: first and foremost, you have to be that physical example. You can't just come in and try to boss people around or scream and yell or order people around. You have to earn that right to be a leader. You have to earn a right to be a leader. And so what he kind of came in from day one was leading by example and being at workouts every day. I mean, KK does not miss workouts unless there's something really serious going on. His work ethic is top notch. His attitude is top notch, always positive. So you got to earn that right to be a leader and have guys follow you and see this is how you do it the right way. And then as the years gone on, he's developed his vocal leadership as well to go along with that. So he's really turned into a well-rounded leader. He has outstanding parents. His father, people know, is Spencer Johnson, played many years in the NFL and played college football as well. So, I mean, he's had a great example at home every day of what it takes to be successful in the game of football. And they're a very, very supportive family of our program. And, just very, very proud of them. This is an accomplishment for the entire family, not just KK.
Yeah, and I can't let you get out of here, Coach, without asking you about Devon Achane, the greatest player I've ever covered in my time as an analyst. You guys at Fort Bend Marshall, with the litany of great players and great seasons y'all have had, y'all retired his jersey. I asked KK, I said, did Devon kind of pave the way for a lot of guys at Marshall? And he said, absolutely. He's like, we can't even wear number 5 because of Devon. Like, he's still very much a legend at the school and especially in the football program. What was that like for you to get to have Von back, retire his number, and just the impact that Devon has made on those kids down there in Missouri City?
It's amazing. It really is amazing. Obviously, we know Devon's a great athlete. He's continued playing for the Miami Dolphins. For the Miami Dolphins, starting running back now. But the incredible thing about Devon is he right now, attitude-wise, character-wise, the way he carries himself, is the same kid he was back then. He hasn't, had all this success and change. He hasn't had all the success, and now he's, walking around as a millionaire like he's better than everybody else or anything like that. No. He's the same young man who was there, years ago in our locker room, getting coached by us, believing the same things we're trying to instill in these kids right now, that character, that discipline, that hard work. He's showing that right now as a professional. He comes back all the time when he comes into town, talks to our kids, hangs around, works out up there. And our players get to see this. And again, we tell them all the time, this young man was in that same locker room you're in right now. He's done the same things that you're doing right now. He was able to set his goals, work at a high level, be that example, and he's received his award going through. So it is very, very much a positive for our young men to see him have the success he has, and again, to stay the high character young man that he is as well.
I remember when I started going down there to cover Devon in his sophomore season, and I asked Coach Randall. For those of you unfamiliar, Coach Randall is one of the coaches, longtime coaches at Fort Bend Marshall, and has been a huge advocate for kids in Missouri City and out of that program. I asked Coach Randall, and I said, hey, what is Devon like off the field? I didn't know him at this time. And he said, man, he's the easiest person of all time. All he wants to do is run the football, run the baton and track, and play his video games. Like, he's the most low-maintenance kid. And that's what you're looking for, right, Coach? You're looking for low-maintenance, great players.
Yeah, you want guys to be humble. You want guys to. We always say just work. We want them to work. You don't have to talk. You don't have to be boisterous. You don't have to do all the extra things to let people know who you are. Let your actions, let your play work for you and talk for you. You don't have to. You have to be character. The number one thing about our program, the one thing we talk about more than anything else, is character. Character matters. You see the days today in the NFL and college level, they're very talented, very, very talented young men who are having trouble in their career, who never reach the potential of their career because they just won't carry themselves the appropriate way. They won't be great teammates. They won't be positive. They won't be team players, and it really negatively affects them. But what Devon, he just wants to be around his teammates. I remember in high school, he didn't want to do interviews. He'd have a game and he'd score 4 or 5 touchdowns and didn't want to have an interview afterwards because he just wanted to go with his teammates and didn't want to be on TV, didn't want the limelight. He just wanted to score and then have fun with his teammates. And that speaks volumes. You don't let your play speak for yourself, and just be a great teammate, be very positive, and help other people reach their goals, and you'll get your goals as well.
Coach, shave me a place on the sidelines this fall, man. I'll be down there for a couple of games.
Hey, you're always welcome. I'll have a headset ready for you as well.
All right, Coach, I appreciate your time. That's James Williams, the head coach of the Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes. One of his top athletes, his quarterback, KK Johnson, just announced his commitment to A&M this past week. And, we have so many stories as we welcome Matthew Dawson back into the program. There's so many stories about Devon Achane and his time. And, legitimately, when you go down there, he's still a legend. Everybody says, well, Devon's my cousin, Devon's my uncle, just regular kids at the school. But my Devon Achane moment that sticks out the most is because, he's my all-time favorite player, best player I've ever covered in the high school level. And then this moment kind of coincides with one of my favorite people of all time. So Devon's junior year, they're playing a playoff game against A&M Consolidated at Tomball High School. And at this time, A&M hadn't offered him just yet. Daryl Dickey, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, had been down there to scout him. I had been advocating for Devon, hey, this kid is the real freaking deal. I've been talking mostly to Coach Dickey about it. So in the first half of the game against A&M Consolidated, Devon scores 5 times. 2 passing, 2 rushing, 1 on a punt return. After the punt return, I get a text message from the late, great Terry Price, one of my favorite human beings to ever walk the planet. Obviously, his son Devin is playing for A&M Consolidated. And the text message said, "Who the F is this kid wearing number 5? And I just got the biggest laugh out of that. And I'm like, that's Devon Achane. I've been trying to tell, I've been talking to Coach Dickey, y'all need to go on this kid. Well, it wasn't 10 days later, Devon had an offer from Texas A&M. As I think Terry Price went into that coach's meeting room and started advocating and said, hey, I just watched this with my own eyes. There's nobody like this kid.
I've heard you say multiple times, and is this still true that he's the best high school football player you've ever watched?
Yeah, and it's lay down. People ask, who's the best kid you've ever seen, the best player you've ever covered? Easy, it's Devon.
Yeah, he will always, that moment, that kickoff return against Alabama. I grew up, candidly, an Alabama fan. My dad's from Mobile, Alabama, grew up there for, his whole childhood, going up until he moved up to Chicago. And him and his best friend from college were in town for that weekend. And we're walking by every tailgate, and he's wearing his Julio Jones jersey. That's what he does when he goes to game days for Bama. And everyone was walking by. It's oh, don't beat us too bad. Hey, whatever. And then my dad's like, all right, we're gonna actually kick the crap out of these guys. Calzada, who is this guy? Calzone, what are we doing here? And man, that kickoff return, that's
the loudest I've ever heard.
Yeah, me too. And I've only been there to games since 2020, but that was the loudest of any of my games.
It was so cool. His first touchdown in that COVID year was against Arkansas. And me and the guy that was kind of helping us, he was an intern for us at the time on the recruiting side, we were both in the stadium. We had limited numbers during the COVID. And Achane breaks his that first run for a touchdown against against Arkansas. And it was so reminiscent of what we'd seen at Fort Bend Marshall. And I was like, okay, he's going to be fine here. He's arrived. He believes he can do it. Then obviously, probably a little underutilized here if we have to go back and look at it in hindsight. Legitimately, one of the best players to ever come through here. His numbers should have been better, I think. But regardless, still the best player I've ever covered in the high school ranks. And, maybe KK Johnson, similar success when he gets to Texas A&M. All right, when we come back, going back to Bluebell Park, Olson Field, we're going to talk to brand new Texas A&M assistant coach, not a brand new Aggie, but a brand new Texas A&M assistant coach in Cliff Pennington. Big news today, or late last night, Chris Hakopian headed to Aggieland next year, the shortstop out of Maryland, one of the best players in the portal. So, flipping the page, going to baseball when we come back on TexAgs Live this Friday morning, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuno here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olsen wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it.
All right, if you haven't figured out the theme of this intro music today, I don't know what I can do to help you after that one plays, but I'll give you some more obvious ones as we go along through the show, and we are getting into the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, and we welcome in on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Brand new Texas A&M assistant coach, longtime Aggie, Cliff Pennington joins us from the recruiting trail. Coach Pennington, I appreciate your time this morning. I hope you're out finding players.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're watching some good baseball, so we'll find some Aggies.
Well, let's start with this. Obviously, this place is in your blood. It's in your DNA. You have a great career at Texas A&M. You have a fantastic professional career. You get into coaching, and you start finding yourself. You have, I guess it would have been a GA. I don't know. How do we call your first stint at A&M?
Yeah. I think it had to. I actually wasn't a GA. I had to be an undergrad, right? Because I guess the rules wouldn't let me coach first. So came in as a undergrad with Coach Childress, and had 1 year of school left. Got to finish it up, and we all were blessed with COVID, right? So got to do a redo and do it for a second year.
And what was the transition like from player to coach? Because that's always, or it typically can be, difficult for guys once they hang up the cleats and they put on the coaching helmet. Can you explain the differences from Coach Pennington in 2019, 2020 to what you're at now?
I hope it's a lot different. The reality is I'm seeing this now with buddies that are also trying to do it, and the transition that I had to make. When you first come into it, you're used to being a self-coach or, maybe coaching a buddy. And so there's already a relationship there with your buddies, so they automatically trust you. And then your eye automatically goes to the things that you had problems with, right? So you watch a player and it's like, oh, here's what I did. The reality is, man, like every now and then that will work, right? You have some players that's what they need, but a lot of times these kids are different than you. And so learning how to meet them where they're at, evaluate them versus just being like, hey, here's what I like. So that was a transition. First got into it was a lot of, man, just do this. This is what worked for me. And the reality is like, that doesn't work for everybody. So you gotta figure out where they're at and what works for them.
You've got to work under some successful head coaches. When you look at Rob Childress, Dan Hefner, there at Dallas Baptist. When Michael Early makes the call and you start going through this, obviously the pull to come back home is there. But just take me through those discussions with Coach Early and then ultimately your decision to come back to your alma mater.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Aggieland part of it was a huge draw, right? I'm gonna be lying if I didn't say that this wasn't, the ultimate goal at some level, right? But that wasn't gonna just be enough. It was gonna have to be, a belief in Coach Early, a selling of his vision, and he did that, right? He admittedly, you ask him, like, learned a lot last year, a lot of really cool things that. Sometimes you can't do until you've been through it, and truly believed after talking to him and talking to the other guys, like it was the belief in the plan and the idea going forward that, hey, this has got a chance to be really good, and we just got to go do it now.
And one of your, I think, ethos with the game of baseball and how I think you fit so well is you are, play the whole game. You got to be able to play the whole game, play everything. And so with your expertise as, I think, infielder, defensive developer, and then offensive kind of strategist and base running and all that stuff, how do you think your impact on this team and coaching staff will be seen through the fans early on?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we always, I've always talked about, this is something I felt like I learned early on, is a team, when you play a team that has an identity, whether you like the identity or don't like the identity, if you play a team with one, they're hard to beat, right? And so that's going to be part of my job. And Coach Early's been like, hey, this is what you're going to do, is you're going to come in and help us establish an identity on the base paths with some things that makes the other team stop us, right? Like, we're going to hit homers. We're going to have guys that can drive the baseball. And our objective on the base paths is to be able to take advantage of weaknesses that other team has and make them hold us. So then, and the reality is even when we're not going, hopefully we're more offensive because, they're having to be quicker to the plate, or they're worried about bouncing that breaker and they leave it up, and then we hit a double. And so sometimes the effects of the running game and just being able to put pressure on somebody else isn't the stolen base category. It's, what did they have to do to prepare to stop us? And then because of that, what advantages did we gain? And so hopefully it won't just be one stat that, kind of tells the whole picture. It'll be a whole offense that tells the picture.
Yeah, and then I don't know how specific you can get in terms of player acquisitions, but you guys land a big one out of the portal. We don't have to say his name if you don't want to, but what I want to ask is when you recruit a guy that obviously there's an immense amount of talent, you're talking about potential first-round draft picks when you recruited a place like Texas A&M, but maybe they need to make strides defensively. Like, how do you explain your defensive philosophy on the dirt?
Yeah, so I mean, that's another one where, when I first got into coaching, it was seeing what I liked because that's what I did, and then wanting to make guys do it, and then realizing hey, yeah, there's going to be a good portion of the players that is the recipe to help them get better, and then realizing, man, that's not how everybody moves. There's certain guys that's not playing to their strengths. So it's, I guess maybe the easiest way to say it is like, it's almost like a two-strike approach in hitting, right? Like you have to have one, but if we're making everybody's the same, then we're probably doing at least half of our lineup a disservice, right? That's not going to work. One method won't work for everybody. And it'd be the same thing defensively. Like they are all going to have some pillars that they have to fall under and we're going to work for, and they're going to be kind of staples of what we do. But each of them is going to have some flexibility within that that hopefully works best for them. And to be honest, like, talking to the player that we just landed, I don't know if we can mention his name, but and then even some other guys, like, I can't tell you exactly right now watching video of you for 30 minutes and be like, hey, this is exactly how we're going to fix you. Like I told him that on his visit, like, hey, this is what I see right now. But dude, if I'm trying to fix you based on 30 minutes of video, like I'm guessing, right? Like, let's get in here, let's get to work. There's some fundamentals that we can start with and some things that are kind of work for everybody. But as we get to know each other better, then we're going to find out like, hey, you got to make this play this way and you got to make this other play that way. Like it's not going to be the same for each guy.
And then, you've coached the last few years on, predominantly turf infields, and now you're going to get back to the friendly confines of Bluebell Park, which one of the best playing surfaces in the country. Is there a difference in how you teach infield on dirt compared to turf?
So that's one of the things that we prided ourselves on is, and the turf we had at Dallas Baptist was like some of the best in the country, I think. But it also played like the ball stayed down, right? So the principles of playing below the ball, catching the bottom of the ball, like those things still had to apply there. Obviously you were going to get, more forgiving hops the majority of the time, but it wasn't, there will be places that we go play the turf where you can play high, right? I mean, you go watch these kids on the recruiting trail and it's like, they can play high. All this turf is relatively the cheaper stuff, right? And it all ball bounces and you can play high. So there's an element there. The cool part was, and the spin we tried to put on it from the turf side was, hey, because we get to train on turf every day, like our fundamentals should be perfect, right? We get perfect reps almost every time. And then the object as a coaching staff was to make that as hard as possible. So we would, throw stuff on the field, put hoses, put cords, put cones, like things that made the ball not play true, made them read the ball and then play through catch. So we tried to make it harder. The good thing about being on dirt is you don't have to worry about that part as much because the dirt is going to do it for you. But we still need to make sure that we're fundamentally sound and understand that, like, hey, we don't catch the ball when it gets to us. Like, we catch it when we want to. There's some principles there that will, make it guys hopefully more consistent and just help play at a little higher level.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work that has to go on between right now and February 14th or whatever the opening day is for 2026. Yeah. But have you and your wife talked about maybe what that feeling is going to be like for you to put back on the A&M jersey and you're going to coach in front of the 12th man and in front of Bluebell Park with I'm just going to tell you, man, since you've left, the atmospheres haven't gotten any worse. If anything, they've ramped up by about 10. But just like your pride in wearing the jersey and your excitement to get in front of the 12th man again.
Yeah, the funny thing is I actually think the way this job works, the way this industry works is I don't think that we have blinked on that side yet, right? Like, obviously super excited, but then it's like, even just hearing you say that, like getting chills, being like, yeah, like, you know what? I probably should have taken 2 seconds to at least embrace that feeling. The reality is hey, Early says you're in, and it's like, where do I go? Who do I go? What are we trying to do? Right? Like, you don't even have time. I think that probably will fully sink in about that first week that we have the players on campus, maybe the week before where, we kind of exhale from recruiting and we start to game plan for the fall a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really gotten to that point yet, but even just hearing you say that, got some chills just thinking about it. That's going to be pretty sweet.
Coach Pennington, go find some players, man.
I will. Let's go.
That's Cliff Pennington, new Texas A&M assistant baseball coach, joining us on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Appreciate his time. All right, when we come back, Kay Nagley sat down with Sam Whitmarsh, the national champion in the 800 meters. We are going to air that interview, not in its entirety, but a good chunk of it for the next segment. And then I will come back, sit down briefly with you as we go into the 10 o'clock hour to get ready for Billy Liucci to wrap up TexAgs Live for a week on The Zone, on YouTube, everywhere on the site. And we are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Hey everyone, David Nuno and Olin Buchanan and OB. Typically, we start off the show in this section, and we call it the Holistic Planning Cool
The cool zone, yeah. That's pretty cool.
What do we know about holistic planning?
Well, a lot of cool stuff. For instance, holistic planning can help you with your investments.
I love that.
They can help you with your taxes. So
I don't like paying
You
taxes.
can get that money that from your investments and they keep it. They'll help you keep it away from the government.
Yep.
Not all of it, but more of it. And then they'll even help you with your estate planning. When you're old like me, you got to make sure some of that money you made is there for when you want to retire and just enjoy the rest of your life.
You want your estate to be planned, but they also do something else.
Yeah, well, if you are like, say, a sports fan and you've always wanted to...
Everybody watching us, right?
Yeah. And you want to always dream of being an owner, well, in a certain way you can, because they will broker the deal for you to invest in pro sports.
Yeah, what you need to do is check out investinprosports.com. That's where you can get all the information if you want to invest in a team. I don't know what team. He'd probably try to buy the Cowboys. I'd try to buy a lot of the Houston teams. Whatever it may be, investinprosports.com. It is holistic planning, and we love hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Welcome back into another Texas Aggies United interview. We are on TexAgs Live. I am with Texas A&M individual 800-meter national champion Sam Whitmarsh. Sam, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, there is so much I feel like we have to get into because you have had such a heck of a career at A&M and specifically capping off this last year the way that you did. Take us back, Eugene, Oregon. You're in that final race. Just what were your emotions beforehand? I imagine that has to kind of be a lot to handle.
Yeah, totally. I was really grateful that luckily this wasn't my first time in the final. So emotions are still super high. Can be a lot of pressure in those moments. But really, I was trying to look at it and take a deep breath and step back and just be grateful for where my feet were. The big prayer on that day was like, hey God, like if I have this, Lord, like help me give it. And whatever it is that I can give, like let it be to your glory. And kind of resting in that and trying to be secure in that and knowing that I just have to go out there and do the best that I can. That was really what I was focusing on. And man, I think doing that kind of helped turn some of those nerves and like nervousness and like anxiousness pre-race kind of into some more like joy and excitement just to get to toe the line with these guys for sure.
Take me back to during the race, just what was going through your head in that moment? You're obviously probably motivated by the second place finish last year. I just imagine there had to have been a lot of motivation.
Sure, yeah. I'll tell you what, definitely down that last straightaway, whenever we were all running to that finish line, that was definitely something in the back of my head. I was like, man, I've got to really run fast here. I've seen how this can play out. It really does come down to the line. So I was thinking about that in that moment for sure. But I was actually trying not to focus too much on last year or trying to live up or get up to something and putting that kind of pressure on myself there and really freeing myself up to do my best. But yeah, that thought definitely came into my head whenever I was running to the finish line. I was like, man, I really gotta run. I really hope this doesn't happen like that again. And thank God it didn't. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about, if we can pan to this picture right above us of Sam. This is when he's crossing the finish line at Eugene. Just seems like a lot of emotions in this picture right here. Can you just kind of like walk us through like finally coming in first and just what that meant to you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shock there. I actually don't remember the first couple seconds after I crossed the line. I think that was kind of like the realization of like, hey, like that's it. Like it's over. It's done. Like we took it home. Just so much gratitude and so much excitement and so much like just shock. Like we did it. It was just really, really special. But again, I didn't really come back to reality until my good buddy from Oregon, Maddie, who is the national champion indoors, came up and gave me a hug and was like, dude, you did it. And I was like, Maddie, oh my gosh. So there's a couple of pictures out there of us talking and hugging it out. It was great. It was awesome.
That's awesome. So how soon, obviously that contributed 10 points to the team total. How soon after were you around when the final race was happening? Just kind of take us through the process of finding out that the team won the national championship.
Yeah, so they brought me onto the field afterwards. I got to do a victory lap. It was super cool, super fun to get to see everybody, get to see the family and everybody who was up there. Then while I was doing that, I got to watch our boys go kill it in the 400-meter hurdles. So, I mean, JQ and Bryce, vital points there, and that was really cool to see. So super excited after that. But then they brought me into the media tent. We were doing media and stuff for maybe about 45 minutes or so. So I was kind of cut off from the rest of the meet, and I didn't know what was going on. And when they finally bring me out, and it's the 4x4's on deck, and I'm walking with one of our trainers. Her name's Stacy, and I'm like, Stacy, like what's going on? Like, are we close? Like, where do I need to go? And she looks at me and she's like, Sam, if we do really well and USC maybe does kind of poorly, like we've got a shot. And so I was like, oh, like we're close. And she was like, yeah. we're close. So we run to the stands and I find our team and I'm sitting down there with our team and supporting the guys from there. So it was, I had no idea that we were that close until about 5 minutes before we did it.
And then there was a little bit of because obviously with USC being so close as well, there was a little bit of a period where you didn't know, right?
Yeah, well, we did well. And so I'm standing down there with Blake and some of the other members of the team. And as soon as we cross the line and we see the points go to 41, Blake and I are shaking each other and we're jumping up and down. And then we see USC's points go to 41 and we're kind of
wait.
We're like, what? And then some Oregon fans behind us who were they were rooting for us at this point and supporting us and trying to take home the national championship. And they see that too. And they look at us and they're like, what does that mean? And we're like, we don't know. Do you know what it means? They're like, we don't know. And then the next thing we know, we see our coaches waving us onto the field. They're like, hey, y'all did it. Get on. And at that point, we jump the fence and we run on. And Sasha was the first guy to greet me. And Sasha's a little bit more built than I am. I thought I was going to meet my maker whenever he was charging towards me. And I was like, well, I got to send it now, but I may be pancaked on this trek here in a couple seconds. So luckily I survived that with no injury. That was a surreal moment.
Yeah, I bet, especially for the way SEC title, right? And national championship title. The way that y'all went out, that had to have been just so special for this last senior group.
Yeah, it really was. We couldn't have asked for anything better, especially just going through these past couple seasons together and last year coming so close as a team, but just kind of having everything, all the cards just fall wrong. Nothing was going right at that meet. And Coach Henry was telling us afterwards, he's like, hey, y'all, or he's telling us during and afterwards, he's y'all can do it, or y'all could have done it. It was right there. If these things had played in our favor. And I think all of us kind of chewed on that a little bit. And we were like, okay, maybe this was closer than any of us really understood or really thought. And so it was really cool to come back this year and kind of have a better deal, a better hand to play and have all of our cards hit for the most part and get to actually take home some championships. It was really, really special, especially to do that with this team. We've been through a lot together, I think. I'm excited for this team moving forward, but I think this team this year was a special group of guys, and 100%. I've said this a couple times now, but 100% my brothers, and wouldn't want to do it with anybody else.
That's awesome. I want to talk about every time you run, you write things on your arm. Can you just kind of explain that to me and what you write, if it's different every time, things like that?
Yeah, totally. I need reminders of what to focus on.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of that is based in faith. And so here in the picture, you can kind of see it back there. But I have 2 Corinthians, I believe, 12, 9 through 10. And I'm going to read it so I don't misquote it. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. And so what that really means to me, in sport, there's plenty of times where we want to seem like we're big and strong, but really there's different things going on. And whether that's being nervous or being afraid, or if it's a physical ailment, there's usually something's going wrong, something's not feeling right on race day. Instead of feeling like I have to backpack everything and do it all myself, I realize that there's so much more value just relationally in my relationship with Christ, my relationship with God, to take those things and be like, hey, God, I can't do this on my own. Here's this, here's my nervousness, here's my fear, here's this pain in my hip, here are these things that I know I can't do anything about, and they're not going anywhere, they're out of my control, but I give them to you, Lord, and I know that you're strong enough to carry them, and in that there's just so much freedom, and I think it's really grown my faith, and just bolstered my relationship with Christ, which has been an awesome thing that I didn't realize sports could be an avenue for, and it's been super sweet. And it's not saying those things. I'm not writing those scriptures thinking well, if I do this, I'm going to win. It's not about that. It's about it's about building a relationship, and it's about being faithful, regardless if things are going well or if they're going poorly. It's all to His glory, regardless if I got first or if I got eighth.
Yeah.
The other things I have written on there, I have "Be Not Afraid" and another runner from LSU. Her name's Michaela Rose. I remember one time before a race, she's also a believer and is very vocal about it. And she was running by. I was like, "Hey, Michaela, like, good luck." And she looked at me and went, "Godspeed." And I was like, I think that was the coolest thing anybody's ever told me before a race. So I started writing that on my arm as well. I was like, man, I sounded really kind of silly saying good luck after she said that. I was like, wow, okay, Godspeed's way cooler. So I liked that, and so I started writing that on my arm as well.
That's awesome. I want to talk about just your journey at A&M. It seems like this has kind of been a long time coming, and you have one of the most legendary coaches, Pat Henry, alongside you this whole time. Can you just talk to people about, or just talk about what makes him so good and why he's been so good for so long?
Yeah, for sure. Coach Henry, I think, has vision. I think he sees things that the normal person or the normal athlete doesn't. Just his experience, I think, has given him a perspective it's hard to match without having that level of experience. I mean, the past couple of years, just as an individual, he's talked to me about like what he saw in me and the potential that he saw in me, and kind of built me up and speaking that way. And then sometimes it's like, man, like I don't even see it in myself, but he's seeing it, he's calling it out, he's putting it out there. He's like, dude, I think you can do this. He had told me on multiple occasions, like, I think you can be a national champion. Like, I think if you do the best that you can do, like it could align that way. And last year, after pulling second, he of course he was happy that we did well, but he was like, Sam, like it's right there, like that can be you. That's to have somebody that can be excited for those successes, but also hungry for the best of the best and not want to just settle.
All right, we are going to cut it right there as we go to commercial break. Final segment of the 9 o'clock hour coming up on TexAgs Live. Getting ready for Billy Liucci here to start the 10 o'clock hour and send you on your weekend, on your way to the weekend. This is a Feel Good Friday version of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, closing the 9 o'clock hour. Matthew Dawson still has not figured out the common theme of these intro music, these bumper music segments. So we continue to search for answers over there in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. We got to go around the SEC very quickly, presented by Jaxer. And to do that, we go to Behind the Fishbowl, to Cade Bickham, where we are going to talk a little College World Series.
Yes, that's true. Well, there's one SEC team left in the College World Series. The LSU Tigers are in the best 2 out of 3 with the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Coastal Carolina has a stunning 56 wins on the season. They're on a 26-game heater right now. It's really unbelievable what they're doing. And LSU just had to beat a gritty Arkansas team. I mean, a brutal finish in that game. We talked about it yesterday on air. But yeah, Bronny, who do you have in that matchup?
I'll take LSU. And by the way, Luke is trying to make the segment about him right over your shoulder, Cade. And then Callie she's screaming back there. I heard every word she just said into your microphone. So you did a great job of doing Around the SEC, presented by Jaxer. And then you have airtime, and they're trying to take away from you. So pretty selfish people there in the back.
Well, there's a guy sitting back there in the second row who's particularly selfish, prone to being very selfish, asking selfish questions.
Who's that? Oh, Richard Zane does ask selfish questions. At least that's what we've been told. But you know what? Let's talk about how often Luke Evangelist, without question, used your basketball data and the numbers that you compiled. I'm sure y'all have a group text because you're a college basketball guy. If your college football and college basketball would probably be at the top of your pecking order, right?
I would say so.
And look, we know Luke's not, he can't put together some of these stat packages that he's broadcasting on these airwaves and on TexAgs.com. And he takes them and uses them as his own, when we all know that you were the brains behind that operation.
Look, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. Post-game stuff, I definitely helped out a lot because a lot of stuff's happening. He's having to, do the post-game press conference. So, I'm sitting in the back with just hitting a button to record the camera. So I'm helping him get some stuff together. But pre-game, previews, those look-ahead things that he would come up, those stats, stuff that he posts on Twitter.
That's all him?
That's that guy.
Well, to answer your question, to go back to your question, Kate, I'm taking LSU because of in a series. And look, Coastal Carolina's starting pitching has been fantastic. And when you look at their numbers, especially Morrison, it's as good as Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, but they just haven't played the schedule. They haven't pitched in the as big of a moments throughout the course of the season. I think Coastal can make this interesting because, we were talking to Cliff Pennington. Play the whole game. Play every element of the game. I think Coastal plays the whole game. So they can definitely make this thing interesting. They've won 26 in a row. They're old. They're unique. They know their identity. They can make this thing interesting. I'm going to pick LSU because of Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, their top arms in their bullpen. And then, come on, man. For them to get that amount of luck that they got against Arkansas in that 9th inning, it just feels like this is LSU's year. So when we come back, Billy Liucci, TexAgs co-owner and executive editor, a lot to get to. A lot of recruiting talk to get to. Closing the week on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I've got Matthew Dawson's brain seemingly in a blender this morning on this bumper music stuff. And Cade, can you help him out? It's not that difficult. What do we got going this morning, Cade?
I've definitely figured it out. I think I figured it out after the second one. Where you're doing walk-up songs, right? A&M baseball player walk-up songs.
Recent Texas A&M baseball walkout song. So you go, I think we did Party Like a Rock Star.
Yep.
Who's that?
No clue. But
Dylan Rock.
Oh, okay.
So it's recent memory.
I see.
So I did
Careless Whisper.
Careless Whisper. Soul Survivor by Akon. That was Braden Shoemake's, very popular. Everybody would take their shoe off and hold it up, and whenever he'd come to bat, and that was playing. So
Ali Camarillo's was a classic.
Yeah, he missed Ollie's.
Yeah,
so
I missed Ollie's.
That was before the Sam Whitmarsh interview. So you wouldn't have been in here to hear that. And that was the dead giveaway. To me, that was the dead giveaway. But so that's what we were going on with the bumper music. We had Cliff Pennington on the show, so I thought, what better way? Bumper music all day on Friday.
Look, no one else.
The soundtrack of Bluebell Park.
No one else texted in. So anyone who was listening on radio did not pick up what you were putting down, smelling what you were stepping in, if you will.
Well, if you want to interact with the show, 979-693-1150 on the Buppy's Catering hotline, or but you just put Matthew Dawson to work in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. This is Ryan Brauninger. This is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It's the NASCAR. It's the NASCAR of sitting in this seat when Nuno's not here. I want to get an actual NASCAR and put it on the center of this desk. And it's big enough that we can put all of our sponsorships and ads on there.
That'd be cool. Nick would be ecstatic. Nick is as big a NASCAR fan as I've ever met.
Who's your favorite NASCAR driver? You like Mike Martin, Joey Logano?
I don't know, it might take a second for him to answer.
No. I'm talking to you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't watch NASCAR.
You don't?
No.
I'm a big I like Carl Edwards.
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon. Who's the guy that was flew his own plane and did the backflips off his car? Do you know?
You're asking the wrong guy.
He says Carl Edwards.
Carl Edwards, Mark Martin. Who drew? Hey, Nick. I need Nick to get to the mic here. Nick, who drove the Valvoline car?
That would be Mark Martin.
Mark Martin. Yeah, Mark Martin drove the Valvoline. Yeah, he'd had that.
Scott Riggs after him, but no one knows who that is.
Well, he's turning. Mark Martin could turn left now. With the best of them, Mark Martin could turn left. What else you got?
Never won the Daytona 500 though. So
is that the benchmark? Is that like the U.S. Open or the Masters?
I mean, yeah, it's the biggest race on the NASCAR schedule.
What about the brothers?
Bobby and Terry Labonte.
Yeah, Bobby Labonte.
Or Kurt and Kyle Busch.
I like Kyle Busch. They talk. I mean, we'll talk about Kyle Busch a lot.
Yeah. Have we really gotten to this point where we're killing time talking about NASCAR? Are you kidding me?
Can I talk about football?
Come on,
because I love
guys.
talking about football. Can we talk about that?
Yes, we can talk about football. I was just giving Nick a hard time because he sits back there and Main Veins Monster Energies and watches NASCAR clips.
Sure. I mean, look, that guy. This is America. All right. Nick Savage can do what Nick Savage wants to do. All right. But let me ask you this question. Okay, if you could guarantee, I'll give you two options. Okay, knowing what we know about the roster and what you expect the offense to look like, if you could guarantee either having a 1,300-yard rusher or having a 1,000-yard receiver, which one would you take if you could guarantee it?
The receiver.
I think so too.
Because I think you can aggregate 1,300 yards plus. Like you could get a couple of 600, 700-yard backs, and then you sprinkle in a few hundred here or there, and it keeps all those guys fresh and healthy. And I think they all bring a different dynamic to the offense. We were talking during one of the commercial breaks. I'm super excited about Jamarian Morrow. And I don't know how many touches he's going to get. He may redshirt. But I just think he is a very much a different skill set to everybody else that you've got on the roster. And oh, by the way, it's just been so long since everybody's seen a fully healthy Reuben Owens. He looks like $1 million. Like he looks like now a third year back on campus that is ready to step forward and have a big role in the offense. So if I had to guarantee one of them, I'd guarantee the 1,000-yard receiver. When's the last time A&M had a 1,000-yard receiver?
It's only been 5.
Christian Kirk, Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds?
Christian
Kirk was the last one.
I think actually it might have been Josh Reynolds because Josh Reynolds
was Josh Reynolds.
after
Josh
Christian
Reynolds,
Kirk
yeah.
had 1,000 yards.
That's right.
No. Christian Kirk played Sumlin's last year and never played under Jimbo.
Josh was prior to that. But Josh may have had a 1,000-yard season after Christian. I think Christian had a 1,000-yard season as a sophomore.
Not the most recent one was Josh.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Why don't you look it up, Dawson? You're over there on the computer.
I got Christian Kirk's only 1,000-yard receiving
his freshman
season
year.
was his freshman year,
and he had like 980 plus his last two.
Yeah, like 900 plus. So
Christian Kirk.
Did you hear that
the
question he
most
asked?
consistent guy, maybe ever in maroon and white.
Did you hear the question he asked? If you could guarantee one of these two things happening for A&M football this year, a 1,300-yard rusher or a 1,000-yard receiver?
1,300-yard rusher.
I picked the receiver.
If Le'Veon Moss had finished last year healthy, I would probably pick the rusher because I think he might have run for 1,300 last year. How many did he have when he got hurt, and in how many
700,
games?
I think. So he averaged like 80 to 90 yards a game.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if he'd have played in 13 games, I think he might have been a 1,300-yard rusher.
I hope A&M doesn't have a 1,300-yard back.
I know. I'm with you. Like, I know what you're and I know that's why you answered that question that way. But I think Moss, like you heard Elko say, he'll be cleared for contact midway-ish through camp. I think that's smart. You have to let him get hit some before a college football season. But as little as possible would be optimal. But yeah, I want to see that wealth spread around to where, in the fourth quarter of games, you got Le'Veon Moss wearing on people. That 3-yard gain's a 6-yard gain, that 4-yard gain's an 8-9-yard gain. Then he pops one. Then you bring Reuben Owens in, it's a home run hit. I think it'd be more of a by committee this year because you have an actual stable, which you look around the SEC, and I'll bet, I would say most, that's a little different. At wide receiver, to me, though, yeah, I mean, Casey, I don't think.
What was his best year? Concepcion.
His freshman year.
Yeah.
But I don't think, other than him, I don't think you've got a contender for a 1,000-yard receiver this year in this offense. But he certainly can be that guy.
839 as a freshman in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to get him the ball a lot. But 1,300-yard rusher, to me, that would be Le'Veon Moss or even a breakout Reuben Owens, like fully living up to his potential. It'd be one of those two guys staying healthy and basically being the guy all year. And I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that would do Reuben even, but I don't think that would do, especially like a guy like Moss coming off the injury did, that wouldn't be doing him a service anyway. So in terms of like, if you're Le'Veon Moss and thinking about your future at the next level. So I think, yeah, you'll see a committee approach, and I think it'll be really damn good. I think we've talked about it, I think it'll be one of the best in the SEC, if not the country.
When you look at how everybody is prognosticating on, it's prediction season right now, and they're ranking everything. And when you look at the regional and national folks ranking quarterbacks and offensive lines and running backs, and especially like in those three, like A&M they're in the top. Offensive line and running back, I don't know that there's a better combination in the league going into the year. You would know. You're kind of guy that takes in all the rosters. Is there a better combination of backs and offensive line in the league right now than A&M?
In the SEC?
You start with backs, and the only ones, to me, really in the discussion would be, Texas is obviously in the discussion. Again, they're in a similar situation. Like, how far back is Baxter really? I know he was cleared, but and my thing with Baxter, and I think I don't know who, it was one of the people that covered Texas saying, look, he's a lot like Reuben Owens, where like you believe in him, but because of circumstances, you really haven't seen it. Like, it's not like Cedric Baxter, he's got more work than Reuben has, but he hasn't had like some kind of magnificent career when he was healthy. He wasn't running for 120 a game and looking like the best running back in the SEC, or even at his point, the Big 12. So, Texas would be in the conversation.
Florida.
Florida absolutely would be in the conversation. And again, I think I would be wise, I think, for people to really study up on, and you got places like Missouri and OU that have highly regarded portal running backs. But again, like when you're talking about a stable. Bama likes what they've got back there.
Jace McClellan's still there?
I think McClellan's still there, but then they have your other boy from Tyler.
Jam Miller.
Jam Miller. And I think they have
McClellan's not there. It's going to be Miller and probably Richard Young. They also got Trey Washington, who's the running back from Louisiana.
Yeah, there's a lot of transfer SEC guys, but I mean, as you're looking at it, just what's coming back for each team, A&M should absolutely be way up there. Their O-line should be, if you're talking about like preseason rankings, should be top 3 on anybody's. Because what metrics do you go by when ranking the O-lines? If you're some kind of purported college football expert or SEC expert, you're going by returning starters. You're going by, if you want to really dive in and go by rushing statistics and or pass pro, things like that. But the reality is you could also simplify it and go, okay, here's A&M. I think you'd have to say pretty solid SEC O-line last year, returned their top 7 or 7 of their top 8, whatever. You might see Dewberry and Shanahan go, oh, these guys played. But you look at returning starts collectively, you look at there's not a position among the 5 that's not a returning starter. And then you say, did they suck last year? Were they one of the worst lines in the league? Because if that answer is yes, you factor that in. If that answer is no, and you go, that was a solid SEC unit last year, A&M moves right up to the front of the line. And they should.
The only one that, unanimously that's been rated ahead of A&M is Alabama.
Yeah.
And they returned Proctor and Brailsford and Jane Roberts, North Shore kid. So, Bama's going to be right up there.
Was that a miss?
What do you mean?
Didn't A&M kind of half-ass that one?
It was late. But you know what? He's been around a while. It took him he started at Auburn and then went to Alabama.
That's what you do, though.
It's interesting.
I wonder if Dewberry will start there. That'll be real interesting.
Because that's why he left, right? Was to try to find a better path to the field.
Yeah, and look, maybe Bama thought he'd start, and when that happens, you're getting paid as an SEC starter versus what he was going to be offered here for a line where he's probably going to be a important depth piece, but a depth piece.
All right, let's go to early break. When we come back, we got to talk recruiting because Brandon Arrington in the boat. Kind of a crazy text from Hunter Goodwin this morning.
He's alerting us to the
Hunter Goodwin alerted Billy and I.
Yeah. California defensive back.
I was like, the one from yesterday? He's like, oh, never mind. Anyway, Hunter's the best.
Oh God! And if you made one I was going to reply and go, hey, thanks for the heads up. What would we do without you? And that little line of what would we do without, it would have sent him on. He'd still be texting us. It would just. I was like, normally I would do that, but I was sitting there at breakfast with a buddy of mine, and then coming in here, and I go, it's just going to be way too distracting. I'm going to be showing you the phone throughout the deal, or you'd be looking at yours. I was just like, it's just not worth the
You also made an interesting comparison for me. You said I'm more like Seth McKinney because I'm a bull in a china shop, and you're more like Steve McKinney because you're so smooth and suave.
Finesse. I didn't say suave. I was like more finesse.
Okay.
You and I feel like what I'm going to rename our recruiting staff, and I don't know enough about Cade yet. I think he's probably a little more timid, but y'all's new nickname is going to be and I'm going to probably throw Evangelist in there.
Ugh, why?
Because the nickname is going to be Bulls on Parade. That's y'all's nickname. We're the bullpen. One of the two.
I like bullpen.
You say do something, and then it's just like, well, I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't know I was supposed to tell him that, or that's kind of where it goes with y'all three.
I like the bullpen.
I do too.
I like the bullpen. All right, we come back. Recruiting Talk with Billy Liucci on TexAgs Live, Friday morning edition, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live. Matthew Dawson, now that you know what the bumper music theme is, what walk-up you got right there?
I don't know.
What's the theme?
Since we had Cliff Pennington on the show, I'm doing my favorite recent Texas A&M walk-up songs.
Oh, cool.
And that was Wipe Me Down, which was
dude,
Braden Montgomery.
Yeah, too short of a time period. Not too short to leave an all-time legacy, but too short for me to instantly think of the walk-up. All those guys that have had the same walk-up for the last 2 years, I could name damn near all of them.
We had Long Live Cowgirls was in here. We had, obviously, Ali Camarillo's.
Hopefully I'll hear that tonight.
Oh, you're going to see.
You'll see Morgan.
Ali Camarillo should have been a dead giveaway because it was so distinct and unique. But had Pennington on the show.
Was that
so
Despacito?
That's Nuno's favorite
I know
song.
it, Ollie.
All right, Brandon Arrington, a 5-star athlete, going to start at corner when he gets to Texas A&M, Spring Valley, California, Mount Miguel High School. Commits to Texas A&M yesterday. Not really a surprise. He whittled it down to A&M in Oregon. But, man, like this run that Mike Elko is on, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon this summer. I know this was an area you wanted to get into, but breaking him down, the enormity of the get, but also just this run that they're on right now.
Well, let's start with Arrington himself. I mean, my God, like this is what the 5-star designation is reserved for. It is for the athletes that are just cut from a different cloth than the rest of the guys in the country that are being recruited. And it's like, we had the NFL had this conversation a lot. Like Shamar Stewart was a 5-star because of what he did at the combine. Like when you saw what he did at the combine, I think people realized, okay, this guy's a different level of athletic talent than most of the other guys being recruited at his position in the country. Myles Garrett was a 5-star for that. Christian Kirk. Like, so they sometimes miss on 5-stars. We know that. But, like, we'll talk about another A&M 5-star at the position here, eventually, or I'll mention him now, like a Jalen Jones. He didn't have an incredible A&M career, but he had a really solid A&M career, and he's making noise in the NFL early, like, because Jalen Jones was a tall guy that could really cover and run, unlike he ran like a 5'9" corner. Brandon Arrington runs like a national champion 100-meter sprinter if he was just going to run track, And it's not just that. It's the fact that his length and height to go with it. You watch his just kind of knack for being a playmaker with the football in his hands. And just you watch the way he moves, and it's all so fluid. None of it looks like a track guy playing football. But his speed screams, elite track guy. So, I mean, this is a guy who will, as soon as he really learns the nuance and ins and outs of the position, is going to be a star.
Careful with that word.
I know. Saying, there goes Zane. Unlike you, I'm not accusing listeners and coworkers of not viewing things through a nuanced lens.
You're
I'm
just
saying
not as, you don't
when
have the
he
depth
learned,
of perception like I do.
well, I don't look up words before I come on the show. But when he does learn like the nuance of the position and gets college coached, he's going to be an absolute star. It's almost like I mentioned Kirk and Garrett and guys like that. I feel so good about like his potential to, he looks like the DBs that Georgia, Alabama, a little further back, LSU, early SEC years for A&M. He's that kind of guy. And here's the deal, Bronny. I want to mention this. We haven't seen A&M. I mentioned Jalen Jones. There was the Denver Harris experiment that was like red flags galore, but certainly he had the talent. But outside of Jalen, right, I don't feel like they've landed it was Sammy Davis, then Jalen Jones, and now Brandon Arrington. As far as like at the time of getting him, you go, okay, this guy is going to be really damn good at the floor. And he could be a first-round draft pick All-American like Sammy Davis was. So they haven't had that. You think about how long ago Sammy D was, the Candyman, that was 1999. And I've really only been able to mention one other guy in between him and Arrington in terms of the chance to be that good. But what that ties into that I wanted to talk about with you is, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and we mentioned the other day, first of all, Jordan Peterson seems like a man on a mission to change that. Jordan Peterson's probably like, yeah, I was one of those corners you're not mentioning, Luch. He was really an athlete from Lexington who I think could have been a hell of a slot receiver had they ever used him there, but the Aggies weren't running that kind of offense back then. But Jordan Peterson is like, he's hell-bent on changing that statistic and those numbers, and he's doing a terrific job of recruiting, and this is just yet another example.
Yeah, 3 corners in the class, Cameron Hamill, Victor Singleton, and now Brandon Arrington. All of them have a similar trait to what we saw him go out and get last year. They all run, and they all have, like, measurable outliers. Like, there's not some cookie cutter. They all have different skill sets, but they have these elite measurables that translate. And this goes back to me, Billy, to some of the stuff that we've looked at and that's become more pronounced and prominent with this A&M recruiting and scouting staff is like, look, there are really good players in the state of Texas and across the country that come in and they're good football players, and they may end up being great football players at the collegiate level, but this model that we're running off of, we were looking for NFL traits. And so maybe there was a guy in state that they didn't recruit as hard because he's lacking a couple of these NFL traits, whereas there's a guy like KK Johnson who does have NFL traits
as a tight end.
So, like, it's been really interesting.
Or a Tyler Thomas.
Yes.
Or a Nelson McGuire. Like, these guys that they viewed as so much more valuable than the recruiting rankings. Now, Arrington's on the other end of that spectrum. But, like, the defensive backs, you mentioned this class and these 3 corners. They added Collins the other day at safety. I think was a big get. You know, it's not going to get that attention, but that was a guy that they just really liked. And,
measurables.
And again, like, I saw some people going, oh, yeah, you beat out Tech. Well, last I checked, beating out Tech for recruits, it's
well,
not
the same
always
people that were saying that were probably going, well, A&M's paying everybody.
Yeah, it's a moving target for sure.
Goalposts are light, dude.
Yeah, they are. I'm telling you, we all do it too. We all move the goalpost. I was saying that the other day. It's not, we named that podcast that, and that's coming out today, by the way. We named that podcast that because it's Aggies and Longhorns have been moving goalposts for the last 12 years when they weren't in the same conference, constantly. And we do it. I still think they're the masters of it, but we do it. And I said, it's also apropos for this. We are in the conference of moving goalposts, whether it's Tennessee, Alabama, Bama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Florida, LA, every fan base. It's like we're just rolling those things around.
You know who's doing it right now? Arkansas baseball fans.
Oh, man. Are they moving goalposts, or are they just ready to just jump off a cliff?
Well, it depends on how, like, everybody would have gone into this College World Series. Dave Van Horn, clearly one of the best coaches.
And now
all of a sudden they're ready to run him out of town to the point where boosters are raising money to try to get him out.
And that would be the dumbest thing because they think Vitello will go over there. That's it. Like, maybe Vitello's going to see them do that and go, you know what? I'm not touching that place.
Yeah, so you railroad your best coach of all time?
Railroad my mentor, essentially. Yeah. Like, so, look, that Arkansas meltdown was one for the ages, but the other one was so much worse. The other one, we
were talking about this earlier.
But listen to why. You were catch that ball.
I know.
And you win a national championship.
And you erase a bunch of narratives.
And listen, my blind ass might not have, but I might have. Me, you, and Dawson could have been first base, second base, right field, and one of us probably catches that baseball.
Probably me.
Hopefully you.
I disagree with that.
You'd have been at second, but I'd have been in right, you'd have been at first.
I understand what you're
You disagree with
yes,
that. I do not disagree. I do not disagree. Contrary to what you think, you're not the only person that ever fielded a fly ball.
But I understand how tough that play was.
That was not tough. My ass. Dude, like, that is a... you see
if
guys.
It wasn't tough. It was tougher than the ground ball to Wahiba Lloyd.
If it wasn't tough, Wahiba Lloyd. If it wasn't tough, you know what? Here's the deal, nuance, man. Most of the listeners played baseball probably their whole lives until they were 18 years old. most of us have had a pop-up in foul ground. Me, when I was like playing first in Little League. In high school, in the outfield, most of us have had a hard line drive from a righty hit straight at us. That it is hard to get that. It's the hardest ball to get that jump on. I get it. That's still
the
an
drop
easy
pop
play.
up was of the 4 errors that Arkansas has made in like notable errors. So the 3 the other night, and then that one. That was the toughest play, without question.
The Bermuda Triangle drop pop up. I would not disagree with that, but it's still an easy ass play. Period. It's an easy play. I would almost contend that the line drive that the second baseman missed.
That's not an error. That's a hit.
Yeah, I'm saying
I'm talking the line drive at Davalon in left field that he dropped.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
But the brain fart, Vahiva Aloy, that's the biggest one.
That little Bermuda Triangle over there between those, you see it at third.
How did we get on this?
Because it's like you take everything you say you think is so definitive. I'm just making a simple point that you don't need to turn into a I know more baseball than everyone listening.
I do.
Because I'm trying to make you're also the one that literally told me you think, well, I'm not gonna say I think you know more baseball than our last 3 head coaches. But that's just what I think. Maybe I've never heard it read on our boards, but maybe that's just to me. But listen, all I was trying to say was, and I will stand by this, and you were wrong if you disagree with me on this, that drop pop-up was far more of a devastating meltdown loss because the national championship, any one of 3 guys to call off and make that catch, which I agree, it's harder than those other ones, especially Aloy, but any one of 3 guys makes that catch, you are the national champ.
My argument is not against the.
Well, that's all I was saying, and you flew into this. So if you
we were looking at it through a different lens. That is a bigger.
Okay, that's all I'm trying to say.
But the meltdown is like consecutive. You go.
Yeah.
Air, walk, air, or brain fart.
Harder to accomplish meltdown, yes.
Yeah.
But my point is, you were a foul ball pop-up from winning a national title. In this one, for like how they feel today, you got to be realistic and go, LSU is going to have a big advantage on the mound in the next game. And then Arkansas still would have had to win 2 out of 3 against Coastal. So my point is, one pop-up catch, still easy in the grand scheme of baseball, harder than those other plays, and you're national champs. That other one, you still have to beat LSU and probably Einson or
both.
Or the Sunday, who's our Sunday guy that I love.
It would have been Anderson and Einson would have been available for that.
Yeah, and then go beat a white-hot Coastal team 2 out of 3. So that was all I was trying to say.
Where do we
I mean, I didn't need all the nuance.
It's funny because, I think y'all are agreeing on
I know.
this is like a whole,
we are. I'm just like,
awesome.
dude, let me just make a simple statement that I thought.
But we went from moving goalposts to this. It's great.
You said the Arkansas fans were moving them.
Yeah.
I didn't know all this was going on with Van Horn. That would be ridiculous. We're talking about defensive back recruiting. And
that's the best. All right, we will
come
back. Yeah, we'll go straight and narrow when we come back. We'll get back on track.
I want to talk about what they've done in the secondary since Elko's return, because it's really encouraging for this program.
All right, when we come back, a lot more to get to with Billy Liucci. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. what's going to be funny is if Nuno just turned on the radio right now, he's going to think, man, that's my stuff. Like they're honoring me. You know,
With what?
It was Suavemente, Chris Cortez walkout. All right. I think the last segment was very entertaining, according to the
I'm
YouTube
getting some
chat.
good texts. People enjoyed that.
Billy's yelling at his coworker.
That was if y'all have ever sat in our lobby or had like lunch with us or on the phone, like it's daily, and it ain't just it's all of us.
So you did want to talk about the secondary class as a whole,
yeah,
and then we got to look ahead to this weekend, where now with the role that they're on, they are at the finish line on a few more that are going to make some waves.
No doubt. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk a little baseball with the addition. Was it late last night? Look, the secondary, you mentioned this class. And what are they at right now? 4 DBs?
Yes, 3 corners and a safety.
And then combine that, you got last year's class pulled up?
I mean, take me 2 seconds. But Jamar Bill-Goins, Adonis Curry, Dejan Petaway.
Read them out. Because, again, like I think people, because you've got so much in the way of returning starters and guys like that, it's not, people aren't as worried about it as we sit here today. But I think just based on like fan conversation reaction, I think people are sleeping on that class quite a bit. Read those names again.
Adonis Curry, Dejan Petaway, Jamar Bill-Goins, Kobe Sellers, and Tom Johnson.
That's elite. Like athletically, I think what those guys can do, like a couple of them are, great height again at the cornerback position. And it's something Elko jokes about because there's a narrative out there that he prefers these long, tall corners like Jalen Jones and Miles Jones. And he laughs because he's like, I don't care how tall. He's like, I actually don't care as long as they have to just be able to tackle and cover.
Mm-hmm.
And be smart football players. He's like, that's what I actually prefer, just the ones that are really good. I don't care their size. But I do think if you can have them be good and with length, it's always a big advantage, and you're starting to see that. You combine that group with these 4, and then who are multi-year, even we don't have to say it, but just like what they're adding in the portal in Will Lee, who's going to be I think a high round draft pick. I don't know like a round 1 guy, but I think he's an all SEC contender this year. You talk about Des Ricks, who I keep telling people, rule him out at your own risk because he had a hell of a spring and looked like a different player. He looked like a guy that took how last season ended personally. And again, this is another 5-star, check every box athletically talent that's got multiple years left too, right? Mm-hmm. 2 more seasons left at A&M. And then you look at like a Julian Humphrey. Is there any other portal guys we're forgetting?
On the back end, Marcus Ratcliffe.
Ratcliffe, who's going to, I say he's going to start. He'll have a real chance to start. I mean, and if not, he's your third safety that plays a ton. A young DB in Miles Davis, who turned a lot of heads this spring. So where the secondary is going to me is as arrow pointing up as probably any position on this team. From where they were at last season, like AKA when Elko got here, to where that arrow's going, I think it's actually the one. Because even like, say, we talked about what a great job Trooper Taylor's doing, but he did walk in and you had Moss, Owens, Daniels. It wasn't like rock bottom. I just feel like where the secondary was when Elko got here till today, right up until yesterday with Arrington, that is the most arrow pointing up position.
Well, can I tell you why that's important? Because when you look at this 2025 football season, and this is what you have to do as a general manager like Derek Miller.
What you're losing.
Yeah, what you're about to lose.
Yeah.
And on the offensive line as well.
Yeah.
So when you go and you stack classes and you're really excited about Tyler Thomas and Nelson McGuire and Lamont Rogers and even, Papa Fu and Blake Ivy.
Yeah.
Like when you start stacking those classes because you're about to have major turnover in the secondary, on the offensive line, at running back.
Yeah.
So going out and getting Jamari Memorial and Tiger Ryden, cool.
Yeah.
But you better follow it up with Jonathan Hatton and KJ Edwards if you're trying to restock that stable.
For sure. And I think they do a great job of, like, I guess the best thing to call that would be roster management. You know, it's just looking ahead at the future, you know, gauging your futures at each position. But I'm just saying, like, Arrington just highlights to me, like, the night and day turnaround and what they're doing in terms of recruiting the secondary. Sticking with recruiting, Brawny, how much time you got till the break?
We could probably go to one now, but you want to go long today?
Yeah, I do. I want to talk about my write-up yesterday. It'd be fun for me and you to just banter about Elko's top defensive sign.
What do you want, Cade? You want us to cut it here?
So you got time to talk baseball?
We'll do baseball.
Let's do baseball, and then after we'll talk.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to break. We'll talk baseball on the other side. Then once the main show clears, we'll talk about your list you put out today. And all that kind of stuff. Perfect. All right, going to a break right now on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're getting ready to talk baseball. Jace Laviolette's walk-up song brings us back to the final segment of the program here on a Friday morning. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, Jace's walk-up, Here Comes the Money. maybe on his way to a top 10 draft pick, Luch. It'd be very interesting to see what Jace's stock does over these final couple of weeks before the MLB draft. But a lot of the talk in my circles has been 9th or 10th pick, which would make him the highest drafted position player ever at Texas A&M.
What is it right now?
12, Montgomery last year.
Interesting text from my man Stanford Steve. Lives down the street from Hacopian.
Wow.
Little connection there up there at Maryland. So.
Well, and that's a huge get for Michael Early. And it's a huge get for Cliff Pennington, who did a lot of the work on the defensive side of this recruitment as this kid comes in. Very heralded potential, another first-round bat like you, depending on how you look at some of these mock drafts for next year. A&M could be rolling out 3 predicted preseason first-rounders.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorrell, Grahovic, and Hacopian.
And you and I were talking during the break. It's always fun in baseball to kind of put together a potential lineup. And the exciting news is there are guys that could, in a recruiting class, that could factor into this. Not a lot, but there's a couple. That
Nico Partita, Matthew Boughton, Josiah Hartshorn. Boston Kellner's the best player in Arizona. They got some real talent coming in.
To be able to name 4 guys that are potential, and again, even at this point, if it's 1, if it's 1.5, if it's a guy that, but just thinking about what's back and forget about the order, but you talk about Gavin, you talk about Caden, Hacopian, FAU,
Jake
Dewar, who all his numbers kind of scream out at you, right? Keel, Bear. And I mean, just that 6, and then you just go the rest, whoever else they add, which I don't believe they're done yet, and then the recruiting class and the rest of the returnees, lineup wise, you can feel really good. I'm still watching that pitching staff carefully. I don't act like I know enough to rate my concern level on it. But you just want to see how they close out and kind of finalize that pitching staff, including a couple of guys on campus in terms of
you get Weston Moss and Caden Wilson back. That go a long way. What happens if Shane Sadeo comes back?
Exactly. So it's like a
it's teetering, and then you get Evan Blanco is a left-handed pitcher out of Virginia who you are really close to getting. You got to survive one more visit. And Carson Bailey out of Baylor, you're in on some of the top pitching.
Could swing. It can swing in a hurry. But that was a big get though, right?
Hacopian's massive,
without question. And
for the lineup and for the perception, man. And look, we've been critical of Mike Early. He understands the reasons why we've been critical, and he understands that you got to win games, no question. So what has he done though in the face of all that? He goes and gets the best portal shortstop, bat portal shortstop available. And he also adds a guy to his coaching staff who can make a difference immediately and help you win games. And so, hey, do you have –
those 2 things have been really nice. And we say critical, and we have, but I also think people were not mentally willing to give enough credit for what that turnaround was with this baseball team. And he'll probably never get over. And you look at – I'm not saying this team goes to Omaha, but you look at the way that postseason went. You're like, my God, why did you have to sit that one out? Yeah. And we know why. It was the Missouri weekend, because they did get it figured out as a baseball team. And I think there's a lot to be said for that if you don't want to just wallow and you go, okay, here's what it is. And Coach Early's coming back. And if you don't want to wallow and you want to start looking at what this team could look like, and then also realize how much they righted the ship and understand that you screwed it up because of one weekend, I think you can actually get pretty fired up about what they're going to have on the diamond.
Well, you were talking about what's coming back. TK and Bear obviously mix into that. Can you pull up Dewar's numbers again real quick, Matthew? But, what happens if Ben Royo decides he wants to come back? That was a guy that
that's
he
true.
hit, was it 12 or 13 home runs and limited at bats?
He was,
he had some head scratchers.
Did it start? Yeah, he did, but he's also still, I say young, but he's got more time to play if he wants it. But you look at, was it the Texas series that really turned him around, or did he get going before that?
Well, he was good against Tennessee. He hit a couple of homers in that game against Tennessee. Remember, he had a big home run after the weather delay against Arkansas.
So, again, second half of the season, I don't care what his stats said before that. I would just love a breakdown of Royo from Tennessee on.
Homered against Georgia. Like, he homered against some of the top talent.
Real teams.
Now, he had the brain farts against Texas on the bunt defense, but when the ball was hit at him, he made every play, and he's a pretty savvy defender.
Baseman,
You got Dewar?
Dewar hit 428, on-base percentage of 497, OPS of 1,048.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't think people are talking about him enough because he had that foot injury at the end of last year that really kind of, I think, took away from his overall production. But if you put his numbers blindly up against Aiden Robbins, who's going to Texas, really good player, you wouldn't be able to pick one for the other. And he also did it against a much tougher schedule.
Yeah.
So, again, like, this has been a solid portal haul already, if not really
It's
good.
interesting to see A&M and Texas split.
Yes.
Aiden Robbins and Hakopian. I mean, and that, look, I don't want to lose anybody to them ever in anything, but with where they're at in the season they had and the program momentum they have, both teams would have absolutely taken both. So, yeah, you go head-to-head against your old mentor, and with the momentum program, again, like I said, program momentum they've got, UTSA notwithstanding, thank you, Coach Hallmark, and the, thank you to that crew. But anyway, I think to get that split was actually really significant, not just for, like you said, perception and momentum, but just for this upcoming baseball team.
Well, and if you look at this weekend's visitor list, we have it on the site. Make sure you're subscribing to TexAgs. We got a great transfer portal thread. Interesting name I'm keeping an eye on this weekend. Carlos Vasquez out of Western Kentucky. There's people that really like his scalability to the next level. He hit 25 doubles at Western Kentucky. This is not a ballpark where you hit 25 doubles in. Those balls typically go over the fence at Bluebell Park.
Yeah.
So if they get him in, he can play third, he can play second, he can play first, he can play left field. With these limited roster spots and the scholarship limitations coming up, a guy that can do multiple things becomes way more valuable. So we'll see if they can close that one down. But Billy is going to stick around. We're going to go a little bit over time so we can talk some more recruiting stuff. He put out a really interesting list on the site earlier. We're going to talk about that. But we thank you guys so much for tuning in for the Friday edition, a B-Team version of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Have a great weekend.